Hello there. Welcome back to the Sky Guys podcast. We're recapping season 2, episode 6 of The Bad Batch entitled Tribe. I'm one of the hosts, Mike Phillips. Normally, we have Pete Consadori's fabulous narration here at the top of the podcast, but he's a little under the weather, so he's going to be sitting out this week. Join me today, though, the village elder of this podcast, Nick Fraietta, is here. Nick, how are you?
Doing well. That's what Pete usually says when you ask him how he's doing. So I'm
I think you muted yourself there, like Pete does from time to time.
yeah. I'm trying to be Pete now, but yeah, doing well. I was excited to talk about this episode. We had a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I mean, last week we kind of had a dud. We had a dud before. That's okay. I had the run direction. This was a good bounce back.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very excited to talk about it. It's something I noticed in it that I can't wait to bring up later, and it's really incredible when you think about it. But let's do it.
Let's do it here. We'll get our plugs out of the way here. And I always tell Pete at the top of the podcast, if you want to subscribe to the Sky Guys podcast, they do so on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, Amazon, all the usual suspects. Just search for the Sky Guys there. If you're a friend of us from Just End the Suffer, I don't know how you found it without the podcast, without the link here, but you're not going to get the Bad Batch coverage here or Mando Mondays for doing preseason Mandalorian coverage. You can't miss out on that.
And I didn't know they weren't getting Mando Mondays either, so that gives you all the more reason to hit that subscribe button.
No, this Just on the Suffering podcast just gets the episode recaps of the live action shows. They'll get the preview and they'll get the postseason. So, like anything else is just Sky Guys.
The postseason with our good friend Mike Brescia usually.
Yep, and Mike Brescia is going to be on episode recap of Mandalorian. So, you guys should get some regular episode this time.
Yep, very excited for that. I really enjoyed our rewatch, which you will hear. Audience, you'll hear in a few days of season 2, and you just heard season 1. But let's talk about Tribe. Oh, let's actually finish our plugs.
Yeah, so you have to tell people how to follow us on Instagram as well.
Yeah, that's right. At Sky Guys Podcast on Instagram, and if I'm not mistaken, is it the same on Twitter?
It is the same on Twitter at Sky Guys Podcast on Twitter. You can also check out the YouTube page, Mike Phillips on YouTube, the video version of this podcast here. We got some fancy props here again here. So another like Ahsoka connection to this podcast here because we had one of her younglings that she helped mentor is there this week.
That's true.
All right. And before we get into the episode here, a little bit of Star Wars news.
I only have the one. Am I missing something?
Nope, that's it.
Okay. The only news is the game. I always say Fallen Order 2, but I think that would have been a better name. But it's Jedi Survivor.
Yeah.
Has officially been delayed 6 weeks from March 17th to April 28th. Simply put, their little statement says that the game is done, all that, but they want to squash all the bugs. And they don't want to release it prematurely, and I'm okay with it. I mean, yeah, a lot of times nowadays, games especially come out too early before they're ready, and they're buggy, and then people have to wait for the first patch or the second patch to fix it, and let's just skip that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way to you Star Wars fans here. Remember all the trouble that Battlefront 2 had when it came out?
Oh, yeah.
We do not want to go through that again. So I'm fine giving them 6 weeks to squash the bugs.
Yeah, that was microtransaction hell, but tons of games like Cyberpunk. The list goes on where these games just come out way too early. There's bugs everywhere. It ruins the experience and it ruins the reputation of the game. So get it right. 6 weeks isn't a long time. It's not like they're telling me they're going to delay it, 8 months or something like that, or indefinitely, or a point where it's not going to come out. Game is coming. Just needed a little bit more time to get it right.
Yeah, that's all the regular Star Wars news this week. We'll talk about the Mandalorian new stuff they released in the Mando Monday for season 2 here. So let's get to this episode here. Tribe. So very pleasant surprise to talk about at the top of the show here. I mean, we get a planet we don't really see much in. It's name dropped a ton in canon. We get a trip to Kashyyyk. We get to see our friend Gungi from Clone Wars. It's nice to see all this stuff pop up.
Gungi.
Yeah, Gungi.
Gungi.
Yep.
I feel like that's a once a show thing where you have a pronunciation that I come in and say, no, it's actually like Deidre,
Yes.
But pleasant surprise of an episode. Good to see him again. We knew he was coming. Just didn't think that we really should have put 2 and 2 together. It was kind of obvious, right? When they said tribe.
Yeah, we should have figured that out last week. We should have realized this is the Gungi episode.
Yep.
Yeah. So we'll talk about this here, and this starts out here. We'll go dive into the plot a little bit here. We'll go to Omega gets they're doing a drop for Sid. They're believe they're delivering some Dr. Chain codes to this droid pirates we're dealing with now.
Yeah, looks like it. Or smugglers of sorts.
Yeah. So basically, Hunter, Tech, and Wrecker delivering the codes. They leave Echo and Omega in charge of the ship. Omega hears commotion, and these are some of the droids are basically harassing Gungi, and she ends up saving him. And I give her credit for this because this is one where I think Echo was with the ship where say, "Hey, like leave well enough alone, let's go." But she says, "No, we can't leave him hurting him." So redemptive moment for Omega after her disaster with the treasure hunt last week.
Absolutely. This is a big problem I have with the show. It all starts because of these codes, right?
Yeah, the chain codes,
Where do they get these codes?
the Empire.
When?
I think they started them last season.
My point is, you should have just made the episode prior, showing them retrieve them, and then go to the like make it a cohesive story. And it's not. It's like this is from last season or the first episode of this season. Like have this be the previous episode where they just got these codes. Now we got to go sell them. I know where to go. We got to find these droids. Then go to the droids. Then see what happens. Like that would make the show work better. But instead, it's all over the place because it's, as we mentioned last week, Saturday morning cartoon stuff. So it's like, oh, what are these things they have? Where'd they get them? Is that last season? Is this new? Did they just make it up? Who knows?
Yeah, you know, it was like, and we remember we did not have Sid last time. So maybe Sid was off getting these things while they were off treasure hunting.
Right. I just wish we would have seen that, see them get it, see them talk about how they need to go to the pirates, not just show up and be there.
Yeah, because all we heard was we get the one line from like Tech usually explaining. He's like, oh, like Sid needs us to sell these things. It's really like all we got.
Yeah.
Yeah, they decided Tech is basically telling us what the missions are.
But you know what? That wasn't the point of the episode, so no big deal.
No big deal. So we do see that the Bad Batch works together here. The droid pirates say, hey, like stay away from this, and they're like, he's coming with us. They fight their way out of here, and I did think it was fun. We get back on the ship, and Gungi is distrustful of the clones, and for a fact that the clones do point out here, say, like, hey, like he's a guy who survived Order 66, and he saw a lot of clones kill a bunch of Jedi, so of course he's not going to trust us.
Yeah, absolutely. He doesn't try. I wonder why he's actually being hunted. I know why, but there's two reasons, and it makes it interesting. One is he is a Jedi, and two is he's a Wookiee. So
Yep.
it's like a double whammy there. But he doesn't trust him at all. Omega says, "You look hungry," which I just find funny. Like, how did she know that he looks hungry? Like, I don't know. How does someone look hungry? I thought of that for a couple of minutes after she said that. Maybe I shouldn't have, but
I
he
mean,
was just sitting there. He definitely didn't look hungry. He looked sad.
he had the same facial expression most of the episode.
Right. So did he look hungry in that specific spot? I don't know. But I love what you have written down here in the note because I was going to bring this up. But they said they had to go to Kashyyyk to find where
Bring him home.
where to bring him home. And Wrecker says we haven't been there in a while. It's note to the it's an unfinished Clone Wars arc where the Bad Batch is in Kashyyyk. So that's cool. I didn't know that you picked up on that one.
I remember we did this and we watched season
Oh,
6.
that's right. Yeah, you were all over the unfinished arcs.
Went over the unfinished arcs, and one of them was that the Bad Batch go with Yoda to Kashyyyk to help some missions out. So like that story is now clearly being put in canon because they referenced it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And also, before we go any further, you want to give the audience a reminder on who Gungi is.
He is a Wookiee Jedi at this point. I guess he's not really a Jedi. Would you say he's a Jedi? Or I mean, nowadays there's no ranking. So if you're either a Jedi or you're not, but he was a Padawan.
Yeah, he's a youngling.
He was actually, yeah, he was a youngling. I didn't even think he was a Padawan during the Clone Wars. Correct?
Yeah, because I remember that one arc where he and some of the
He got his crystal and all that.
gets his crystal to help Ahsoka escape Hondo's pirates, and then like they're random in the background of the temple when Anakin is chasing Barriss around at the end of season 5.
Which would mean at the end of season 5, if he's a youngling, it means he probably wasn't even a Padawan by the end of the Clone Wars, right? He could have been.
Like maybe like a year, you think passes between those 2
The
points?
point is, we saw it with Kanan also. If you're even a youngling at that point, you're a Jedi now. There's no rankings anymore. If you were part of that order, part of that ancient religion, you're a full member of it at the end of that because they're not going to pick and choose. Oh, no, you're not ready yet. Like, we need all the help we can get.
Yeah, absolutely.
So he fights against those droids, right? And I didn't know this until I heard this. Obviously, he uses his lightsaber to fight, right? Very cool moment. The first time we saw a lightsaber in Bad Batch since the first episode of season 1.
Yeah, I did catch that too. I was thinking, I was like, when the last time we saw a lightsaber, I realized it was the Order 66 moment with the Clone Wars. And the bad's kind of going, huh? When they're like killing David Balaba.
Yeah.
Yeah. definitely a fun moment here. And we do see them go back to Kashyyyk here. And the current state of Kashyyyk's a little rough, Nick.
To say the least.
Yeah. I mean, we go there, we see that the Empire is basically raised the villages. And before we get any further, I do want to point out it's interesting that like a little commentary pops up here when they basically have no idea how the Jedi works. So they go to Gungi or like, like, where's your village? Can you help us find your way there? And he's like, he of course has no memory of what's going on here because he was taken from the planet when he was a kid.
Yeah. Yeah, he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't even know what tribe is his. That's what they got to figure out. But I guess it's an interesting plot line for an episode. You're bringing him home, but he doesn't really know where home is.
Yeah, because who knows? His parents are still alive at this point. Like all that stuff. Like nobody knows anything because that's the state he's in.
Yeah, and poor Kashyyyk.
Yeah, poor Kashyyyk. We also see that the Empire has hired Trandoshans to start enslaving the Wookiees. We see they're using like what is it? Is it salvage like Confederate tech they're using to basically run over the planet over there?
Yeah, that was really interesting to me because obviously the Republic transformed itself into the Empire. The Emperor did that in Revenge of the Sith, but and obviously also the Emperor was secretly on the head of the other side of the Clone Wars. But we've never really seen them using that tech.
Yeah.
It's kind of just been Republic tech that's moved on forward and became Empire tech. We haven't seen any Confederate tech become Empire stuff. And that was interesting to see.
Yeah, it's interesting to see. And then we see that they find this village here where Nick, are you impressed they did not have Chewbacca magically be part of this village?
Yeah, I thought the first time we saw another Wookiee, I was like, that's probably Chewie.
Yeah. I was impressed they avoided the urge.
Yeah, that was good. That was really good because that's what Filoni loves. He loves throwing everything in people's faces. Look who it is. Surprised we didn't see Ahsoka 10 times this season already.
We haven't seen Ahsoka at all in this series.
No, we haven't. I mean, I'd actually be surprised if we didn't.
Yeah. Well, maybe we'll get there at some point. But right now, we'll point out that they meet the village elder named Yana, and she basically points out that, like, this is all that's left. They're doing what they can to protect the planet because they view that the trees are sacred and that they came before and they have to protect everything. And apparently they have a support of this thing where you get a little bit of Wookiee religion where you see that like they go to the trees for spiritual guidance.
Yeah, I guess the trees. A lot of Star Wars fans used to make fun of Lord of the Rings fans because the trees were alive.
Yep.
But I guess our trees are alive too.
Yeah, I guess at least these trees are.
At least these ones are. That's right.
Yeah, and apparently the trees came up with a plan that Hunter just says, okay, like we're gonna go along with this because they have a discussion in there, and Echo correctly points out when they're having dinner at the village, they say, hey, like the Wookiees were our allies in the Clone Wars. We should help them out and return the favor after what we saw happen to them.
Did you just hear that way you started that sentence?
Yeah.
The trees had a plan. And Hunter went along with it. Yeah. That's what we watched today. At our early 30, mid 30 years of age, we were watching the trees come up with plans in the Star Wars cartoon, and couldn't be happier.
Yep, it was fun. It was a good plan, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you do see that like they set up to ambush. You see a garrison of clone troopers with Trandoshans who are trying to burn the village to the ground. The Trandoshans realize that there's a Jedi in their midst, so they basically say like 100 Wookiee pelts, whoever catches the Jedi. And we do see the plan for the trees, basically, that early in the episode, they had run into some spiders, basically, that Gungi says, don't bother them. Like, they were not going to attack unless they see a threat. The tree basically told the Wookiees, hey, like, let the spiders go after these guys. They will do your dirty work for you.
Yeah, and you could see he uses some sort of force to get the spiders away from them. Reminds me of what Anakin did in Attack of the Clones. And you had mentioned the Trandoshans are involved here, and that's fitting.
Yeah,
I talked about this in Book of Boba Fett, and I'm surprised we didn't see Bossk, but the Trandoshans and the Wookiees hate each other. Remember that they enslaved them for years. It's an ongoing battle between the two of them. So it made perfect sense to have them in there. And I also noticed something else later on in the
episode.
I'll bring it up later on in the episode, but I noticed something else that maybe you noticed too. If you don't bring it up, I will. I'm going to give you your own chance to bring it up though. But very fitting that you had the Trandoshans here.
Good thing Sid wasn't there with them because that could have led to some problems.
Well, that's kind of what I was getting at. Sid is a Trandoshan.
Yes.
And that's what I'm going to get at a little bit later with my point.
Yeah. good thing Sig was there. As far as our friend Bosk here, I mean, at this point, Bosk about him. I'm sure he's not just being hired by the Empire for this job.
Yeah, wasn't upset to not see him there. Wasn't expecting it.
Yeah, it would have been a Filoni cameo if Bosk was working for the Empire right there.
Yeah, it wouldn't really make much sense. I mean, I guess working for the Empire is getting paid to do work, so it is kind of bounty hunting. And you're not hunting bounties by whatsoever, but you are getting paid for your work.
Yeah,
so it wouldn't be the biggest shock to see him there, but wasn't there.
He was not there. And then this fight against the Trandoshans was fun because I did like the visuals of being at night and all the lightsaber lighting up in the shadows and then using the smoke and stuff like that. It was a lot of fun visuals at this fight.
It really was. It really comes to show you, like, we've been doing animated Star Wars for a while now, from all of Clone Wars and Rebels and now Bad Batch. The animation is so good. It's ridiculous.
I mean, the first show up on Kashyyyk here, I was like, started staring at the screen like, ooh, this looks cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even the first shot of the episode when they're flying into that trading outpost or whatever it was, that ship, that the robots, just the sight of it was amazing.
Certainly was here. And then obviously they win the fight. The Trandoshans set fire to this. We get a cutaway from this, but like basically we see that the early episode that the Bad Batch use shovels, basically shoveled dirt on fires and put them out. Apparently they took the entire Wookiee village and shoveled out these fires.
Yeah. They had to stop it from spreading.
Yeah.
So good job there. Good job stopping it from spreading.
Yeah, so they saved the village here, and then we see that Omega and Gungi say goodbye to each other here. And that was an interesting line from Hunter to end the episode as well, because he discusses with Yana, the Tribe Elders, and like, these guys are kids, but they can't be kids the way the galaxy is. Like, maybe, we should do something to try and like make this a safer place for them. So I do feel like maybe this mission has given Hunter a purpose that like they did not really had before.
Yeah, it kind of reminds he's done that before, actually. This is just not the first time this season that he's kind of looked at Omega and said she hasn't really been a kid in the galaxy.
Yeah. Yeah, I do think it's an interesting point too, because like obviously they've been kind of going just, doing what they can to survive, doing what Sid just tells them to do so they get some money to like have enough to like live on. But like there's a difference between like surviving and like actually trying to make a difference. I think he's realizing that like this actually was like felt useful to us, of like being able to repay a debt that we sort of like left behind. We sort of like screwed the Wookiees over as the Republic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this brings me to my point that I wanted to make. I gave you the chance.
Okay.
I think the most important thing to take away from this episode, because you've kind of reached the end there, right? Was there anything else you have to add?
I think we got the just the plot.
Yeah. So the most important thing in the episode to me is there's a couple options here, but they're way back in the beginning of the episode, the robots said they were selling Gungi, right?
Yeah, they said they had
Gungi. I think it's Gungi.
They said he's worth a lot of money to us.
Yeah. Who wants him?
That's a good question.
I think there's an easy answer. That's the Empire.
Either way, for being Wookiee, because at this point they were sending Wookiees off to like labor camps to build stuff for the Empire.
Right. Or was it Sid?
Do you think Sid's on this?
The Trandoshan who hates the Wookiee? It's very possible. We were told to look out for Sid. I think it's very possible.
Yeah, and you think you wonder maybe this could be, if your theory is maybe we're teasing a point where they break away from Sid, start doing their own thing.
Yeah. My theory would be that the racer guy, and I can't remember his name, excuse me, from episode 4. I don't know if you have his name on the top of your head.
Greenie.
Greenie said to them to watch out for Sid, and Sid is a Trandoshan. Gungi's a Wookiee. Someone was after the Wookiee. We see a lot of Trandoshans in this episode. It's not that far-fetched to me.
Yeah, because I feel like we've been sort of looking in the storyline and say, like, like this Sid status quo, like, sort of makes sense in terms of, like, like these are guys who are following orders. This is the only person who's willing to give them orders and give them a purpose here. And then sort of maybe realizing, like, maybe throw a lot in with the wrong person here.
Yeah, I think you have, if you're going to show a Trandoshan in a show, which they've been very good with lately, and there's a Wookiee in the show, the Trandoshan and the Wookiee have to hate each other. And it's like their main personality trait of the Trandoshan is they hate Wookiees. So the fact that Sid is one, I think you have to see that at some point.
Yeah, I think that's got to get at least discussed off, like, at some point, maybe the next time they're back there.
Yeah, the very least.
Yeah. So we'll put the pin in that. We'll keep an eye on that for future episodes here. Let's get to our trackers now for what we do every week here. So no Hondo appearances here, but we saw pirates and not just droid pirates. No Hondo here. 18 appearances still.
It's like they're teasing us at this point with Hondo. We got the the kid who was with the Honda in the episode. Last episode was about pirates. It's like
Like,
treasure, that is. It's just like they're teasing us with Hondo here.
yep. I thought for sure we get the live action cameos this week with Chewbacca, but we did not. So just 2 live action cameos. So next week, I think we're gonna get this updated.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Next week's gonna be a big one, so we'll see.
All right. We have another planet on the board. We're up to 8 planets now because we can't take Kashyyyk to the board.
Not bad. 8 planets, 6 episodes.
Yeah, so over a planet episode. So it's a good start here.
Our over under, I believe, is 20 and a half.
Yeah, so we're still on pace to hit that.
Are we? Yeah. Yeah, we are.
I think we're on pace to barely clear it right now.
Yep.
All right. Next up here, Sid missions. Technically delivering those forged chain codes and missions. So it's 4 missions for Sid. Thankfully, this is not the whole episode. It was them deal with the chain codes.
I got a feeling we're gonna be under 8 submissions.
Yeah, you think the breakup is coming?
Yeah.
All right. I would welcome the break. I'll give these guys a new dimension here. And clone tracker here, still just 3. We haven't had a new clone named clone pop since Commander Cody episode 3. So I feel like that one also get broken next week.
Definitely.
All right. Now, next up here, we're going to go to our MVP, LVP board here. We're going to go over the best and worst characters from the Bad Batch thus so far this season. We have been doing this throughout the year. Every week, Pete, Nick, and myself give out MVP and LVP points to the best and worst characters of the episode. Here is where we stand after 5 weeks. Commander Cody still on top of the board, +3. Hunter, Tech, and Wrecker all +2. Echo and Romar +1. Vice Admiral Rampart, Crosshair, Governor Groton, Tony Ames at Disney all have a -1 point. Omega is at -2, and Sid is at -4. So that's our board so far, Nick.
Like it looks good so far.
It looks so far. So since Pete's not here, he did take the time though to watch the episode and send in his stuff. So I will kick off the MVP section here. Pete gave Gungi his MVP for the week. So Pete has put Gungi on the board. Not to say why, but he said Gungi's the MVP.
Well, Mike, you could double that for me. I think Gungi's my MVP. I think he was a fierce warrior, and it was cool to see him again. And I think he did a great job in the episode.
Yeah, I'm gonna give Omega a point here. I'm gonna put her 1 step closer to positive territory. I feel like without her moral compass here, realizing that we have to help this Wookiee out here, I think this episode doesn't happen. I feel like it's just the 4 bad batch guys that say, okay, fine, we deliver the chain codes, we're leaving.
Yeah.
I don't think any of them are really aware enough what's going on or curious enough to investigate it.
Definitely. Yeah, that's a good point. I thought about having Omega as my MVP for the beginning of the episode there.
All right, so now the other way here. We'll go to the LVP section here. So Nick, who's your LVP?
My LVP is Hunter. So spoiler alert, Pete's is also Hunter, but me and him have a different reason. Mine is that, like, so I don't have any issue with them helping out Gungi. I think it was a good thing. But the fact that they don't keep an eye on Omega and she goes wandering off in the ship and then stumbles upon him to create this whole thing, like, just watch Omega. Tell her to sit on the ship. Like, it's more the Bad Batch as a whole. But I'm giving it to Hunter because he's the leader.
To be fair, that's on Echo because Echo is supposed to be watching her.
Yeah, but Hunter is the one. He's the leader. Like, he should be telling the people. Like, he should do it himself if he can't trust anyone. Or like, it's crazy that she's going off on her own and stuff. And he's the leader of the crew, so I'm pinning on him.
I'm giving it to our Trandoshan guy in the tank, Venomore. Like, his leadership style was terrible. Like, considering he had an advantage in technology and men and weapons, like, how he doesn't get this job done is very poor reflection on him.
Yeah.
And I will go, I'm going to add him to the board right now for the LVP here. And Pete's LVP was Hunter because he followed the plan of the trees. That was his quoting here. So considering that he is an experienced soldier, you know, like, he chose to listen to trees for his battle plan.
I just feel like he's a little not leader enough as a leader. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't let Omega dictate nothing. Not that anything was wrong with what they did this week. I think it was actually a good thing what they did this week. I enjoyed it, but don't let her decide what's going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I hear that. In terms of, like, they're letting their kid basically dictate what their missions. You know, it's the right call here. That could lead you down a bad path if you do it too often.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, now we're going to grade the episode here on a scale of 1 to 10. 1 is worse than 1978 Star Wars Holiday Special. We got pretty close last week with our grades here. 10 is up there with the prison episode of Andor in terms of the best Star Wars content of all time. I'll give this one a 7, Nick. I feel like this episode was very strong. I feel like we got a good storyline. We got a cameo that made sense. It didn't overwhelm the storyline. We did not throw in a bunch of extra cameos just for the sake of it. We got a good situation, the Bad Batch evolving as characters and learning, maybe got a purpose in this galaxy besides just doing missions for Sid. So I'll give it a 7.
I'm right there with you. I think it was a really good episode. It was a lot of fun. Wasn't perfect, but a lot better than I thought, and it makes me really excited to watch next week.
Yeah, Pete gave it a 6, so he is also very good, very high on this episode here. Because I think right now I haven't done the math. I feel like this is definitely the second best episode of the season behind episode 3.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that the premiere kind of stands on its own a little bit, but I do agree.
All right, next up here, we're gonna have a reminder here for next week. 2 episodes of Bad Batch are dropping next week as we are trying to again finish the product here. We have episodes 7 and 8, the mid-season event here. The Clone Conspiracy, Truth and Consequences. We've heard it's a very big episode. We've heard that Palpatine's going to be in this episode. We saw in the trailer. We've heard that off the line that he's going to be in this episode. What do you think this could be about?
Clone Conspiracy, I would imagine it means that this is like a clone revolution. And then Truth and Consequences is like them paying for it. Kind of like a lot of clones start going against their order, similar to what we saw with Cody, similar to what we saw with the Bad Batch itself. So that's where I'm going with that.
You see, my thing would be like maybe the clones themselves learn about the inheritor chips and why they had to do Order 66, and some of them go against it.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah. So like somebody finds out something, and then they sort of have like a massive revolution on their hands.
Yeah, this is I'm very excited to watch that. That's going to be a great episode. It's been a while since we had a good episode. I mean, like this episode was pretty good, but I mean, like an episode that I'm excited for that has like connection to the greater Star Wars world, and I think this is going to be a great opportunity for it next week.
You can figure we got to see Crosshair next week. We haven't seen him since episode 3.
Yeah, I think we see Crosshair. I think we see Cody. I think we might see Rex. I think we see Palpatine. Obviously, the Bad Batch and Omega. I think we see Bosk at the dinner. Everybody.
Hopefully not Sid.
Hopefully not Sid.
Yeah,
unless Sid is having dinner with Bosk.
Yeah, and they're talking about the Wookiee that she couldn't get.
Yeah, they're talking about how he's going to show up in the Book of Boba Fett season 2.
Yeah, which we're still talking about that one here, but that's all for us here. Next time you're going to hear from us on the podcast, we're also going to have Mando Mondays back again here. So Nick and I'll be back on the horn on Monday to cover season 2 of The Mandalorian, which that was fun. Not quite as good as season 1, but still very good rewatch.
Yeah, just because 1 has been so long. I still think 2 is a better season. Sure you agree. But 1 was more fun on a rewatch because it's been so long to see it since you've seen it.
All right. And last call here. We're going to mention one more time. If you want to follow the podcast on the Instagram, how can you do that?
At Sky Guys Podcast.
Okay. You can also follow on Twitter the same way. Sky Guys Podcast. Follow me on Twitter, mphillips331. It's MPHILIPS331. Or the Justin the Suffering podcast this week, Nick. We did a Super Bowl betting special. So we have a half-hour betting kind of ways you can bet on the big game.
I'm excited to hear your takes on that. I would ask you, but I know what you're going to say. You're going to say tune in.
Yeah, you can tune in. And some good betting tips on there. You can also follow Pete on Twitter at PJ Consadori 29. Rangers are on their All-Star bye week, so not as much hockey content from him right now, but he is still sharing the Star Wars stuff.
Hopefully we get him back from the injured list soon.
Yeah, I think he said he should be off the injured list in time for the Bad Batch next week. So we'll talk about that then. But until then here, may the Force be with you.